Well, good Saturday, tis everybody. Tis. It's the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Thanks again for being here. We got the Buckeyes playing the Illini, coming up in about 10 minutes on Fox. So if you're a Buckeye fan and you are watching me right now on the X, on Facebook, or on YouTube, we appreciate you watching us here on the Fanatical Elves Network. It is an unusual Saturday showing of the Johnny Cleveland Show, but I wanted to get this out before all the big games started. Some of the games start at noon. Some of you note that I am wearing a K State outfit. Go Wildcats. Some of you know that I did live in Kansas and Wichita, for many years and became a big Wildcat fan. Had family that went there. So shout out to all of my cousins who went to Kansas State. So the Wildcats play the Texas Christian University, TCU. Wildcats have had a struggle this year. Their 2 wins, 4 losses. Had an opportunity to help coach their quarterback, Avery Johnson, back in the day when Avery was a seventh grader, eighth grader in middle school. Shout out to May South Schools there in Wichita. Avery played on the middle school basketball teams there, and my colleague Coach Chris, coached Avery, and I was his. Well, I was the. There were two of us. I was the assistant. We had two teams, an A and a B team. So I took care of the B team. Avery was pretty good, so he was on the A team. But Avery still looks like he does now. He looked back then with uh, the long hairstyle and whatnot. That they have struggled a little bit out of the gate. So this is a big game for the Wildcats. So good luck to Avery and good luck to his teammates. Hopefully they get a win over TCU. I know there was some news back in the day a few weeks ago with his family being in the news. They got into a fight over there in Dublin, Ireland. So that was not a good thing, but hopefully they've worked through that. And I know he's got some unforeseen attention because of that. But Avery's a great kid, and hopefully he has a great game today for Kansas State. Go Wildcats. But I'm also a Buckeye fan. I know that's hard for some of you who are watching this to believe, but I did grow up in Worcester, up north, and so I was a diehard Buckeye fan. Actually, got to play. Shout out to the Worcester High School marching band back in the day, the Worcester Generals. We had an opportunity to come to Columbus a few times and play in some band shows. Yes, I was in the band. Maybe some of you are surprised by that. Probably not, but it was a great. No, I was not a great. I made the mistake when I was younger of making this sign that said something like John the Great or something. And that was a mistake because I did that in middle school in an art class. Never lived that down. So I'm working through it still. Thus the podcast. Haha. By the way, shifting gears here a little bit. If you're interested in watching some good things on TV and that are streaming, I know that's all we do these days is stream our shows on Netflix or on Prime. There's a really good documentary on John Candy, the great artist, actor. Unfortunately, he died at the age of 43 in 1994 of a heart attack. And many of you know many of his films, especially if you're in my age bracket. You've seen all sorts of movies from him, including Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of my top 10. Uncle Buck. He got a big hit with Tom Hanks with the movie Splash, where he played Tom Hanks' brother. Some great scenes in all these movies. And the documentary came out. It was actually created by Tom Hanks' son, along with Ryan Reynolds, the actor today. And they did a phenomenal job. It's 2 hours. And if you don't have any sense of emotion, you probably can't get away from crying a little bit here and there. It is really well done. And it's a really good look at his life and what family meant to him and his acting career. He's Canadian. He was grew up outside of Toronto, but make sure you bring a box of tissues if you're going to try to watch through it. And I know I'm a grown man, but it is a very well done piece. And if you love John Candy, if any of the movies you've watched over the years, you certainly need to take the time and watch it. It's well worth it. So, shout out to John Candy, one of my favorites all time. And anytime Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is on, or Uncle Buck is on, or Outdoors is on, I'm going to stop and watch because John Candy was one in a million. Okay, so hey, it is the Johnny Cleveland podcast. We are talking about the Cleveland sports scene, especially the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have been in the news quite a bit this week again. Surprise, we're always the center of attention here, the universe of sports. But the Browns did make several big newsworthy um how would I describe? Well, trades, right? And so they had at the beginning of the week, let me take a sip of my coffee here. This is not the Coffee Jolt. It is the Johnny Cleveland show, but I do have that show in the summer called Coffee Jolt with Johnny Cleveland. So I'm going to get a little bit of coffee here. So they traded Joe Flacco. The Brownies traded Joe Flacco. Apparently, the Cincinnati Bungles came a calling and wanted old man Joe come off the couch again and try to stay upright behind that tremendously great offensive line of the Cincinnati Bungles. Not. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, Joe didn't want to sit behind Dylan Gabriel now, who's the starter, the rookie who started last week for the Brownies. And hopefully it'll work out for Joe. I don't see it working out for Joe because Joe hasn't made it through a season for many years. But we'll see what happens. He is the starter. We'll see how long he can last. But good luck to Joe. I know Flacco Mania is dead now here in Cleveland. We tried it and it didn't work again. 2023 was a magical, magical year. We can all reminisce as we get old and talk about Flacco Mania, but it is no more. The other news that happened the next day was that the Browns decided to swap corners. They sent Greg Newsome to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and in return, the Browns got Tyson Campbell, who was drafted a few uh, draft picks later in that same draft that they were in back in, I think, 2021, 2020. I'm not quite sure when Greg Newsome, what draft that was, but they were in the same draft. So the Browns get a guy that's, statistically is better than Greg Newsome. And many of you know I'm not a huge fan of Greg Newsome's. I think that he did a lot of dancing in his time here in Cleveland, but didn't have a lot to show for it. He did have a significant interception, the lone interception of his career for the Browns against the Baltimore Ratbirds back in 2023. Thank you, Greg, for that. But outside of that, I just got annoyed, and many of you did too, of watching Greg just do a lot of dancing and little actions with his uh, teammates and just a lot of extra stuff that didn't need to be had. But in return, the Browns get this Tyson Campbell kid, and he should be great. He's a heavy tackler. He gets the ball. He's a big guy, and I think he'll fit in better with the Browns scheme. Steve Gill was talking about this on the fans first or in our Fanatical Elf show Thursday night. Just that what Coach Jim Schwartz, wants to do is more man to man D, and with Denzel Ward, I think that Tyson Campbell will do a much better job in that sort of structure for the Browns D. The Browns D is also already doing really good things, so it should be interesting to see how he fits in. I do expect to see him to play come tomorrow. We'll see how that all works out. We are going to Pittsburgh to play the Squealers. I love everyone saying, "Well, the Browns are 0-22 in the regular season, dating back to 2003 was the last time the Browns won a regular season game." But everybody seems to forget, and I know Lou Marconi and I talk about this oftentimes on our show, the Stirring the Pot. Fans want to, or the people that want to point out how bad the Browns are, forget to mention that the Browns did beat the Squealers in a huge playoff game back in 2020. But let's not remember that one. Now, that was 5 years ago. Pittsburgh is beatable. Pittsburgh is coming off of a bye, and I know that there's probably 99% of you that are doubting the Browns have any opportunity tomorrow against the Squealers. It is slim. I'm not going to disagree with most of you, but if the Browns can continue to play really good defense, and if Dylan Gabriel can go into the game, continue to improve on what he's doing in managing the game and getting out of the pocket and doing maybe some extra things, getting the ball down the field, having another week working with his wide receivers in that first team offense, things might turn out a little differently. We'll see. Right now, the Browns are 5.5 point underdogs in this game. It'll be close. I think many people are feeling that way coming into the game. We'll just have to see how it all pans out. Pittsburgh is a hard place to play. Obviously, I have nightmares of Deshaun Watson going into that one game against Pittsburgh a couple years ago and throwing like what back-to-back interceptions, where the Browns then got down early. That might have even been the game that Nick Chubb went down. Oh my God, that was a horrible, horrible game. But the Browns did try to come back, and actually, I think they grabbed the lead late, but then lost the lead. Obviously, other nightmares in Pittsburgh going back all the way to the playoffs when the Browns did before they won the playoff game in 2020. They had to go to Pittsburgh back in what 2003. We're winning that old playoff game so many years ago, and if some of you recall that are older, the Dennis Northcott drop as Kelly Holcomb threw him a pretty good pass that should have been completed and would have given the Browns a first down, and probably the Browns could have run the clock. It was a playoff game. The Browns unfortunately didn't do that. They gave the ball back to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh won. So, no, there aren't a lot of good memories, but I think right now we're looking at a Browns team that has a lot to consider. And we're going to talk more about that, the rookies, and some other things that happen in Browns news and Cleveland news on the other side of this break. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast. We are back from the break. Hope you enjoyed those commercials. And shout out to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer. Check out our link on the X page. Click on it. You buy some coffee from them, and you're contributing to the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. We really appreciate working with Fans First. Many of us with Fans First and the Fanatical Elves do write articles as well for the network. And so check that out. They're on our websites. Uh, Stay tuned every week. We've got folks like Steve Gill who do articles, Lou Marconi who writes some articles for them along with myself. So check those all out. Um, all right. So the other big sort of news that is only in Cleveland because we're talking about backup quarterbacks all the time, and that is Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur was drafted by the Browns after Dylan Gabriel, and it was announced following late in the week on Friday that Shedeur would be indeed the backup to Dylan Gabriel. Thus, the trade of Joe Flacco makes a little bit more sense. Now, interestingly, Coach Stefanski did not commit earlier in the week to announcing that Shedeur would be the presumed backup quarterback, which caused a lot of headache and controversy on La La Land because people don't know what to do with themselves when they don't have the answers they want answers. And Kevin Stefanski is good at creating sort of like not saying a lot. So it leaves a lot of people guessing. So Shedeur now is the backup. I'm excited about it. I don't know if you're excited about it. It's pretty much split, I think, amongst Browns fans. I think that Shedeur it can and will be a great NFL quarterback. Some of you, though, who disagree are concerned because maybe he doesn't know the plays or hasn't doesn't you don't feel comfortable yet thinking that he could be that guy. Interesting to note, and I know things are different in college. I know the game, the speed, all of that is different. And some of you are still concerned that you're saying that he regressed from the first preseason game to the second preseason game, which I can't even agree with. Just and I've shared this before many times because when they put Shedeur in that second game, the preseason game, they put him with a bunch of guys that are still that don't have a job in the NFL right now and are working with the general public because they're no good as players or offensive linemen. And So Shador had to deal with that. And I know there's the one play where in the preseason he ran around similarly to what he did in college, but I still just don't agree that he has regressed. I think, Coach Stefanski talks a lot about player development. Obviously, it wasn't a great moment in that preseason game, but we can't forget about all the other things that were positive over this offseason and in training camp and moving forward. And whoever made that decision, and hopefully Stefanski's the one who did, making him the backup, they feel confident enough to be that way. I had this discussion with Sam and Steve Thursday about player development and how I'm a little bit concerned with how Stefanski talks about that. He almost sounds more like a college coach, in my opinion, more concerned about player development. It is the NFL. I know the coaches are all interested across the league in player development, but the way Stefanski talks about it, it's almost like that's more important than winning in the NFL. And look, the guy's in year 6. There are people that believe that he's on the hot seat. I've questioned if he's on the hot seat. Then there are other people that are trying to tell us, no, he's not on the hot seat at all. If the Browns continue to lose, they're 1-4. If this season continues to go south and this team is 1-10, I seriously don't see how Stefanski and Andrew Berry can be that safe. Now, there's also this debate amongst fans about, well, is there a divide between Stefanski and Andrew Berry? I think they're together on a lot of these decisions from what I hear from Steve Gill, our colleague. Again, he hasn't, his mentioned a time or two, he's got some folks on the inside of the Browns that he gets some information from. And according to him, there is no divide. So I'm on a side with Steve on that. I don't think there's a divide, but I also think that if Stefanski gets fired, I think Andrew Berry leaves too or gets fired. Let me take a sip of this. Hemisphere Coffee Roasters, amazing coffee. I think this is the Berg. It's called the Berg Blend, Burg. Let me take a sip here. You can um, take a listen to the Browns, or no, let's see, the Buckeyes are on a commercial break here. It is looks like the Buckeyes. I think they've got the ball here. There's 11 minutes to go. It's the second 7. Oh, they're in. There they are. They're down to about the 10-yard line here. The Buckeyes are looking to score against Illinois. My old 6th grade teacher, Miss Allen. Shout out to you, Miss Allen, from Parkview Elementary up there in Worcester. She went to the University of Illinois. I do remember that, Miss Allen. And also shout out to my friends and colleagues, or not my friend and colleagues, but my friends there in Worcester. One of our classmates that was in my class at high school, unfortunately, had an accident recently and died. And so, shout out to Mark Beckler. Went to school with him and high school, so know Mark extremely well. But I know some of you out there did know him a little bit better. But it's a very devastating news when you hear about friends that die accidentally. He was on a boating. It was like a boating. Uh, they were deep sea diving, snorkeling, or not snorkeling, but like deep sea diving out down there in South Carolina. So prayers and thoughts to Mark and his family. I believe the memorial is today, and many of my old friends from Worcester are going to be there. So I hope that is I know it's a sad time, but it's also a good time for memories. And a lot of people really appreciated Mark's sense of humor and who he was as a person. So, um, anywho, back to the Browns here. With the game coming up and with what we're talking about with Shador being the number 2 guy, I'm happy for that. Obviously, it means that if Dylan Gabriel goes down with injury, Shador would be the guy coming in. Earlier in the week, I know Shador's dad was speaking, and Shador's dad has been having a lot of health issues. Prime time, Dion is not short on words and mixing words. He is not a he was when asked about the situation before Shador was announced at the backup. He was like, I don't care about the Browns. I just care about Shador, which as a parent, I can understand that to a degree, but it's also supporting your son and his team. It's an interesting take by a father, but that's what makes him prime time. I don't agree with him, but so Be it. We'll see what happens in this game against Pittsburgh. I think it'll be close, and if the Browns can get out to a good start, how they have been, and that game against Minnesota, they did some good things early, got off to some good start. So we'll just see how it goes. We're going to be headed up to Worcester to watch the game with family and friends. Fortunately, unfortunately, my in-laws, shout out to Steve and Sean uh, Denman, who are big Squealer fans. We're going to be watching the game together tomorrow, so that'll be a lot of fun. My wife and we're going up there with Grant and have some fun with Grandma Barb. So look forward to that tomorrow. We'll see what happens. We are going to have a pregame show here on the Fanatical Elves Network. I think Steve Gill and I will be doing one about 9:30 tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll have post-game reaction after the Browns beat the Squealers. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a victory Monday celebrating the Browns win over the Squealers. We can't wait. I did enjoy, even though they are for the wrong team, Jeff Hartman, who leads the charge there with the Fans First group in Pittsburgh. Interviewed with him earlier in the week. You can check that out on the Steeler Network there for their affiliate. So, it should be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens. Pittsburgh can be a good team. They've got a good coach, and the Browns have some things in front of them. They have this youth movement, and that was one thing I wanted to just re bring up here. With Carson Schwessinger, Mason Graham, Harold Fannin, the tight end, and Quinson Junkins, the running back. I mean, he's ninth in the league overall. He's doing tremendous things as a running back. And as much as I miss Nick Chubb, Quinshon Junkins runs hard, runs similarly to Nick Chubb, and I'm really impressed with that so far. He went over 100 yards rushing the other day, so we'll see what he does in this next game against the Squealers. The Squealers do give up some rushing yards, so I expect to see Quinshon get in a good amount of carries. He's had 23 carries or 22 carries in the last game. So all right, folks. And a shout out to the Seattle, even though I'm not a huge Seattle Mariners fan, they did beat the Detroit Tigers. Thank you, Seattle. My daughter, shout out to Miss Mariah. Mariah lives out there in Seattle, along with my sister-in-law Nicole and her husband Sean. They are all big Seattle Mariner fans. So congratulations to you as Seattle beat Detroit last night in 15 innings. It was like a 5-hour game, 3-2. So good job to Seattle. They're going to be playing the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League Championship Series, which is going to be very interesting. Two different teams, and we aren't going to have the New York Yankees in there or the Tigers. So that always makes me happy. So even though Cleveland lost, um, we have a lot to be thankful for. Finally, just real quick here, the Cavaliers are starting their preseason games, so they're getting ready to start their regular season. Can't believe it; it's right around the corner. But the Cavs should be healthy and strong, and led by Donovan Mitchell. So look forward to seeing what the Cavs can do this season. Appreciate everybody tuning in to all of our network programming here on the Fanatical Elves Network. I'll have a new show next Wednesday on another Johnny Cleveland podcast. And I have a special guest, my old friend from high school from Worcester, Doug Lair, will be coming on the show, and look forward to debating. Doug has and I have texted once in a while, and Doug listens to our podcasting. I really appreciate that, Doug, that you tune in to us here on the Fanatical Elves Network, and look forward to debating on some of these topics with the Brownies and Cleveland, because I think he disagrees on a few of my takes. But that's okay. Most of you probably disagree on most of my takes too. But that's what makes it fun. We're fans just like you, and we appreciate you tuning in and debating, and that's what we need to be able to do. And moving forward, we're not always going to agree on all things, but sports kind of brings people together. That's why I've always loved doing this and podcasting. Also, I will be going up to Cleveland for the game here against the Dolphins as a fan. But then in a few weeks from that, I think the Browns play Baltimore. Hopefully, be going up there with Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders again. It was a great treat to be able to cover the Browns in Yep, there in the press box area a month ago, a few weeks ago. Just a dream come true, and I look forward to doing more of that and continuing to write for both Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders and the Fans First Sports Network. So tune into that, those writings. Appreciate that very much. Folks, until next time, take care and remember to always keep smiling. See ya. Go Browns.